Hello, thank you very much for the Meki Foundation to have asked me to send this video. My name is Yassine Fall. I'm from Senegal. I'm an economist and a long time friend of our sister Zanele, who I am really greeting and saying, best wishes. I wish I could be with you during the conference, but as you know, time is extremely tight for us to be present. But I would say hello to everybody and congratulate you for such a very great initiative. The issue of women's in development in Africa is extremely important. There is no development without recognizing women's contribution in the economy and without women benefiting from the fruit of development. And women's contribution in the economy can be recognized at three levels. The level of course, women unpaid care work, and care work that can be seen as work done in household, like taking care of elderly, taking care of sick people, going to fetch water, going to fetch firewood, and community work. Community work is what women do in funerals, what women do in organizing, what women do in ceremonies. That is free work, unpaid work, but that is work that is caring for the society, that is caring for people to be able to stand up, to be dignified, to stand up, to be healthy. And that is not recognized, that is not counted. And that is very important in the economy because it's a contribution to social development. It's a contribution to human development. Another level of women's contribution is in production. I come from Cameroon, where I was developing a program, economic development program in the northwest of Cameroon. I've been going back and forth there for the past 3 months. And what I saw was just amazing. Women producers, every crop being produced in the northwest is produced by women. Even in other areas in Africa where women do not produce commercial crops. In Bamenda, women produce commercial crops and women produce also the crops for family consumption. But when it comes to income, which is really the measurement of people having money in their pockets, women have very little income. Another issue, and they have very little income because production in Africa is not processed. And that is where we look at development from an overall angle, but also from an angle of gender and development. Africa produces a lot, but do not process. The whole issue of value chain analysis, meaning that what we produce, we are able to process it, add value to it in order to sell it, is a problem. People say, and women produce so many good farm products that are sold in Africa, used in Africa, but also overseas. You talk about cassava, you talk about ginger, you talk about mangoes, you talk about millet, you talk about maize. All of these products that are not processed. And it takes a lot of hard work and labor. Not only they don't have access to finance, but they don't have access to employing people, workers, so that the work they do in the farm is much more easier on them. But also they don't have access to production, means of production, meaning farm inputs, equipment. I mean, it's unbelievable that in 2023, our sisters in the farms, our mothers, our sisters are still using primitive equipment that they were using a long time ago. So the issue of development in Africa first of all, a new issue of exclusion and marginalization of women and youth that really carry the economy on their shoulders. The other issue of women's in development is access to employment. We talk a lot about growth, but we talk about growth that is jobless growth, that doesn't create employment, that they create decent employment and people and women and men and excluded communities having access to income. I know I have done work in South Africa on domestic workers, and the report shows that even though South Africa is one of the countries that has ratified the convention, the UN Convention on Domestic Workers, but the conditions of work of domestic workers is still very problematic. And that comes to the issue of social protection. Social protection is something that is extremely critical for women because access to essential services, access to water, sanitation, access to housing, access to transportation, but access also to education, training, knowledge. And when we talk about farming, rural women farmers, we always forget the issue of knowledge. Knowledge in farm techniques, knowledge in creating, making seeds that are, bio seeds that women can conserve, because we have a culture in Africa of making seeds and preserving seeds. But knowledge also in ways of production. And also knowledge is brings also the whole issue of access to technology, access to international, information and communication and technology. And especially access to information today, meaning, for example, rural women's access to market, prices that are sold in market. If you say today there are no onions in this market, because of information, I can sell my onions in other market. Information is key. And we feel that, there is a lot of information that needs to be produced by women, generated by women, managed by women, and shared by women. But shared also by women with all stakeholders from national, local, and institution. What I didn't want to just stress also is that all of this is due because we have macroeconomic framework that are biased. They are biased because they don't take into account really poverty and women's poverty and different groups' contribution in the economy. And if you're not counted, you're not recognized, you cannot be put into policy. So really, the fact that we are saying macroeconomics need to be revisited, so that we even revisit the notion of gross domestic product. How do we calculate it? How do we calculate, unemployment? And what needs to be reviewed is extremely critical, so that we bring different socio-economic group dimensions, but bring women's knowledge, their contribution, and their ability to be change agents. And the other thing that I would like to add, finish is, agency of women, meaning women's participation in policy making. And it's not because you didn't go to school that you don't understand how economies work. Women understand how economies work because they carry African economies. Women understand how economies work, and they can explain that to policymakers. They can participate in policy framing, in policy definition, in policy formulation, so that budgets that are developed really are inclusive. Budgets that are developed do take into account women's contribution and the need to invest in women. And not just invest with crumbs, but really serious investment in women as actors of economies, as producers, as workers, and to be beneficiaries in the fruit of growth. I hope that this will be useful. I thank you again for allowing me to share with you. We are in a very different context in Africa. I am from Senegal, where rights are being deprived, where there is a lot of challenges faced politically in terms of violation of human rights, violation of the rule of law. Several women that are incarcerated right now, even with babies of 2 months old, of 10 months old, young women who are supposed to be going services are in jail by Macky Sall government because of just him not obliged to not do a third term in election, but deciding to also choose who Senegalese should be choosing, excluding President Ousmane Sonko, who is a candidate, and putting him in jail, who is a young candidate, and preventing the Senegalese from choosing the person they want. And the project that has been presented by PASTEF, the Party of Province, is a project that is really inclusive, that proposes a different economic framework that would really address all of these issues that I have indicated in my presentation. I thank you very much. Bye-bye.